Hi guys, this is Erica Weston with Fox Sports Midwest, and you're listening to my favorite St. Louis Blues hockey podcast, Let's Go Blues Radio.
Hi there, everyone. I'm Haley Wickenheiser, and this is Let's Go Blues Radio, Past to the Future.
Well, this is Jeff with Let's Go Blues Radio, and we are continuing the Past to the Future segment of the show. And, of course, we are in the past version as we get started with Carlo Colaiacovo, a name that I think everybody in St. Louis probably remembers. It wasn't that long ago he was a St. Louis Blue, and one of the better names to ever come into the Blues organization. Carlo, thanks for joining the show today.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. It's a great pleasure to be on here.
Yeah. First of all, I want to bring up something that a lot of people probably don't know about you. You have a twin brother, Paulo. Man, that's interesting.
It's awesome. I don't know where I'd be in my life if I didn't have my twin brother. I have an older brother too, and between the three of us, we are as close as siblings can be. We are each other's best friends, but more importantly, my brother. Because we are the same age and because we grew up playing hockey together, I was the defenseman, he was the goalie. We pushed each other in every sport that we played to be the most competitive as we possibly could.
Yeah.
Right from elementary school to high school and the sports we played there, we were always the best players on our team, and we only thrived in winning championships. All we wanted to do in every sport that we win was win. And, that engraved the competitive drive in us. And right up and through minor hockey, I get drafted to the OHL. He got drafted to the OHL the year after to the Belleville Bulls. I played right away in the OHL. He had to wait a year, and he was a goalie, so you kind of understand the different path they have to take sometimes. But when he got his chance, he excelled. He ended up winning goaltender of the year in Barrie in his last season there. And we actually played each other in the OHL finals. I was with the Erie Otters. He was with the Barrie Colts. Unfortunately, he was the backup for the Barrie Colts, but he was still on the team. But we're even right up and through that. When I got drafted to the NHL, he had to take somewhat of a different path, float around through the minor leagues. Never got a sniff at the NHL, went to some NHL camps, but ended up finishing a couple years in Europe before deciding to pack it in. And even through my career in the NHL, he was always a guy that watched all my games, would critique a lot of my games, would critique a lot of my play, and you need that. You need that as a guy who's looking out for you. And even with his path in Europe, my last 2 years of professional hockey, I played in Europe, and a lot of it was the advice he gave me. He's like, "You got to go do it. It's great." And luckily for me, I did do it, and something that I always wanted to do, something I always said I wanted to do before I finally called it a career, was experience life over there. And I'm so grateful that I did, because not only did I enjoy the hockey, but you gain great life experiences. And I wish I could have shared a lot more of those experiences with my brother along the way. But even though we weren't playing at the same level along the way, we were definitely with each other and by each other. And now we're both married guys. We both have 2 kids, and I've got my own career. He's got his own career, and we're still every day. We push each other to be the best. And, thankful that I have somebody like that. Don't know where I'd be without it.
What's the highest level he ever played?
Highest level would probably be, I think he played a couple of games in the American League.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But other than that, a couple games in Europe. But it's different now, because back then, you had goalies that could play forever.
Yep.
Right. And, there's only 2 spots on each team, where now you're seeing a cycle through, more goalies every year where, if you're not proven, they find a way to move on, whether it's cheaper or whether it's younger. And maybe now through the times, he could have gotten a better look.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. I think we're both grateful that, one, our parents put us through the path of playing hockey, and 2, I was able to carve out a pretty memorable 14 years of playing in the NHL and 16 years of playing pro hockey. And, I think he played 4 years OHL, and after that, maybe another 4 or 5 years of semi-pro. Again, a lot to be thankful for.
Yeah. So speaking of being thankful, you are a Toronto kid, and you were drafted. And now any player to be drafted by anybody, people used to ask me when I was younger, what are you going to do if you get drafted by the Red Wings? And I'm like, I'm going to play for the Detroit Red Wings because I'm in the NHL. But you were drafted by the Toronto Maple Leafs, your hometown team. Very rare to see that happen. One, did you know that you were on the Maple Leafs radar when you were drafted by them 17th overall? And two, how did that feel for you?
We'll answer the second question first because it leads into the first question. How did it feel for me? It changed my life because I was a young kid that just loved to play hockey, and overnight, being selected by the Maple Leafs, I was a massive celebrity in this city. I understood, the sort of super fan in Maple Leaf fans. Coming home from Florida, the draft was in Florida, and when I came home, it was like my parents' answering machine was just overflowed with messages. I was on the front page of every newspaper. I had people trying to contact me in numerous ways to get me on radio shows, to get me on TV shows. And I'm thinking to myself, holy cow, like my life just really changed. I'm literally a popular person in Toronto, and mostly because I'm a member of the Toronto Maple Leafs right now. So it was a very big adjustment that I ultimately had to get used to very quick. Everywhere I drove in public, people would recognize me at the gas station, at dinners. And, that's something that you never really understand until you go through it. But when you start to go through it, you start to realize that this is bigger than anything you've ever could expect. And it was something that I embraced. I mean, I was a Maple Leafs fan growing up, diehard. It's what I watched. It's what I followed. It's ultimately what I dreamed I could possibly be, but never thought it could be possible. And the reason for that is because even leading up to the draft, I was very highly ranked, very, very highly scouted. And when you have your meetings and go through the process, you meet with certain teams and you kind of get a feeling of where you think you're going to end up. And nowhere in my mind did I ever think the Maple Leafs were going to be even a possibility, just because of where they fit in the draft. They were the number 17 pick, and I was ranked, I believe, 11th or 12th, maybe even 13th in the Central Scouting, final Central Scouting rankings. And so when you meet with the teams that are in that spot, or either a little bit above them or a little bit below them, you don't think you're going to drop to the Maple Leafs. You don't even entertain that idea of it. And there was two teams that I originally thought I was going to go to. The Phoenix Coyotes, because I had 4 meetings with them. And I believe it was, who was the 9th pick that year? I think it was the New York Rangers. I don't remember. But the Phoenix Coyotes, they were picking 13th. And I had 4 meetings with them. And sorry, the LA Kings were the other team. I met with them a lot, but they didn't pick till 18th. And so when the 11th pick came around, I don't remember who they traded with. I think it was Carolina. Carolina was 11th pick. But Phoenix traded up to the 11th pick, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, my God, I think this is where I'm going to go. They come up, they draft, I believe it was Freddie Sjustrom, the kid out of Sweden. And so the unique thing about the draft is when you're on the draft floor, when you're a highly ranked guy, they give you an assigned seat so that the cameras can spot you. And when 11th pick came around, you start to follow where the camera was going on the floor, and the camera actually pointed up into my section. So I had the anxiety that maybe it was my turn to go. Well, Sjustrom was sitting a couple of rows down from me. So I kind of got the idea, okay, next time the camera comes around, it's pointing at me. There's a good chance it's going to be me. So Phoenix selects 11th. 13th was I believe it was Carolina. I have to go back and look.
13th was Edmonton.
Edmonton. Okay,
Yep.
so they drafted
Alish
correct me if
Hemsky.
Hemsky. That's what I remember.
Yep.
So after that, you're starting to just flip hairs and flip coins to see where things are going to go. So next time the camera comes around, it's the Maple Leafs pick I thought I was going to go 15th to Carolina. That doesn't happen. So then the Maple Leafs come around at 17. And next thing you know, all I see is the camera come to my section, point up the camera at me, and I got my twin brother sitting beside me, and my twin brother is just going nuts. He goes, "Oh my God, it's gonna be you, Carr. The Leafs are gonna pick you," and I'm like sweating. I'm like, "Shut up, man! Stop telling me I'm nervous, Rack. Don't do this to me. What if it's not me again?" So all of a sudden, the Leafs get up there and they announce my name, and I've got 30 family members in the crowd, and the place goes nuts, and I can't believe what I'm just about to go through, and I just got selected by my hometown Maple Leafs team. So I go up there, I put the jersey on, I walk down to the floor, and I shake everybody in the Maple Leaf staff's hands, and they're welcoming me to the team. And all of a sudden, I see one of the scouts that I had a couple meetings with the LA Kings, who were supposed to pick next. He looks over at me and he shows me a jersey with my name on the back.
Oh.
So I would have gone to LA if I didn't go to the Maple Leafs. So if you might go back to your question, no, I never thought the Maple Leafs were going to be an option, but I'm so thankful for it, because playing for the Maple Leafs, being drafted for the Maple Leafs, not only did it give me a memory of a lifetime, but it also allowed me to pursue my post-career job, because I will always have that Maple Leaf in my profile. And if there's one thing I can go back and change, I wish my tenure with the Maple Leafs would have been different. I went through a lot of injuries. I had to overcome a lot. And, we went through some tough years there too. And there's one regret that I've always say to people: I wish my time in Toronto, I would have experienced what playoff hockey was like, because even when I come back after every season, I come back and I'm still a fan. I want this team to win. And now more than ever, I'm part of the media. I cover them on a daily basis. I'm a part of the alumni. You still cheer for them to win. So there will always be that connection for me, and something that, again, I'm very grateful for, because it's allowed me to pursue a career in my post-career, because I have, that label of being a Maple Leaf alumni.
So, again, you play in Toronto a couple of years. You mentioned the injuries, and I remember when the trade happened with St. Louis, when you came with Alexander Steen in exchange for Lee Stepniak in November of 2008. I remember everybody looking you up and saying, "Oh, this guy is," the word that was associated with you was injury prone. He's so injury prone. But then you looked at all the injuries, and they were all, to me at least, freak things. I mean, you had the major concussion. You injured your hand when you were playing for the Toronto Marlies.
Yep.
You had to have arthroscopic knee surgery in 2007. So it's not like there's one thing like, oh, he's got this hip problem.
No.
It was all these strange freak things that happened. So would you consider yourself an injury-prone person?
Definitely not. Definitely not. And that's a tough label that I've always had to try to remove from me and my name throughout my career. And it was extremely difficult. But people don't understand that the game of hockey is very, very tough. And I played the game very hard. I said sometimes early in my career, I played it reckless. And, you learn a lot through some of the injuries that you get, and some of the advice that you get, and some of the people that you talk to, that you got to change your game. I came in guns a-blazing in my first couple of years in the league. I was hitting everything in sight. I played fearless, and fearless brought on reckless. And a lot of the stuff that I ended up having was, stuff that lingered because of some of the bad advice I was getting, whether it was through trainers, medical staff, whatever it may be. It's in the past. It's done. I'm over it. My knee injury was something that could have been fixed really quickly, but through some complications was something that I had to, deal with for a very long time. It's something that I wasn't very happy about because it was something that prolonged throughout my career. But I got it fixed, through meeting new people, through talking to new people, through having to battle all this criticism coming at me. I found a way to get through it. And most importantly, the turning point in my career to be able to move through that was when I got traded from the Maple Leafs, because I just felt like no matter how hard I trained, no matter what I did, no matter how I tried to change the way that I played, people would not allow me here to remove myself from that label. And it was extremely difficult for me as a young player because, you're out in public, you're under the spotlight every game, and every little thing, people are always referring back to something that I had absolutely no control about. I loved playing the game of hockey, and all I wanted to do was play it as hard as possible. And by doing that, there were certain things that happened. So I felt like the year that I got traded, I kind of saw the writing was starting to be written on the wall that it was going to be time for me to explore, a career move, something that was going to allow me to prolong my career, but also allow me to be who I always thought I could be in a different city. And I never wanted it to happen, but when it did, there was a lot of emotion that went through me. Having to leave my family, having to leave an organization that I wanted to be part of so bad, and having to leave an organization that had so much faith in me, and drafting me 17th overall, putting so much, investing so much into me. And I felt like I had a lot more to offer, but it just felt like it wasn't going to happen there. And when I got traded to St. Louis with Alexander Steen, it was a new door that opened for me, and an opportunity that, I knew I wanted to make the most of. And I did. I felt like I did. I enjoyed the most success in my career playing in St. Louis because I went into an opportunity where I was just able to play the game of hockey. I didn't have to go home and answer all the questions and listen to all the stuff being said about me. I was able to go there, play hockey, enjoy life away from the rink, and then go back and play hockey again and love the game as much as I did. And lucky for me, I went to a team in St. Louis that was on the ups and ups. I had a lot of great friends there. One of my best friends in hockey and in life is Brad Boyes. He was there, allowing me to help soothe myself with the transition of going to a new team into a new city, something I'd never done in my whole career. But the transition was seamless because I went with Alex Steen, who already I had a relationship with. Not only was there Brad Boyes, there was Keith Tkachuk, there was Paul Kariya, there was Andy McDonald, there was a lot of BJ Crombie, Jay McClement. These are all guys that I grew up playing with. So it was a very, very comfortable feeling for me. And what we were able to accomplish in that year when I got there, from where we were to where we ended up finishing, was something that, laid the groundwork for me, knowing that, this was my opportunity. Now I needed to take advantage of it. Now I needed to see where it took me. And I'm very grateful for every season that I had in St. Louis, and, wish again, we had some really good teams there. Wish we could have found a way to finish the job.
Yeah, well, you mentioned, your teammate Alexander Steen and David Perron was also with that team, and those guys, TJ Oshie, yeah,
young boy.
Yep, Patrick Berglund, also a young man at that time.
Yeah.
But all those guys have, Perron and Steen with the Blues, but Oshie with the Capitals. You saw them win the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
Were you still in touch with them when that happened? And what was
absolutely.
that like for you as a former teammate?
Absolutely. Anytime you're not participating in the tournament, you're always following friends or teammates on other teams, just because when you develop these bonds with these guys and these friendships, you cheer for their success as well. And I've been lucky the last couple of years that I've been able to cheer for some really, really great people. I mean, TJ Oshie was an awesome friend, an awesome player, to play with, but even just to follow now. And David Perron, same thing. Patrick Berglund, you talk about those guys. Berglund, unfortunately, hopefully he's feeling a lot better and doing a lot better with some of the stuff that he's been dealing with. But to watch, Oshie hoist the cup, and to watch the St. Louis Blues, like, that was an incredible thing for me to watch. Everybody that I still had a relationship there with, and one in particular, one of my best friends still in hockey, is Alex Pietrangelo. Alex Pietrangelo, was a rookie in one of my years in St. Louis, and I sort of welcomed him as a younger brother to me, and that's what we still are. We're still really close brothers, and to see him hoist the cup for the city of St. Louis, that I always had visions of doing the same thing with, just because I loved playing there. I love the fan base. I love how much they care about the team. I loved everybody in the organization. You know, Craig Berube was never my coach in St. Louis, but I had him in Philadelphia. And to this day, I've said to so many people that he's the best coach I've ever had, the best coach I've ever played for. And I can see why the players has so much success playing for him, because he's just a guy you love playing for. He's honest. He's open-minded. He respects you. He respects you if you show the respect. And he just enjoys being one of the guys. He's a guy that separates business and hockey and life, and is so thankful for everybody. Like Steve Ott, he's a guy, another first year as behind the bench, a guy that I had so many battles with playing against, but one of the best teammates I've ever played for. The list goes on and on. Mike Van Ryn was my D partner in St. Louis, in Toronto when I played here. So the relationships go, so far with that team, and to see them win it, I felt like I was part of the team. I wanted a ring. I wanted to go to the party. I wanted to do everything. So I'm so happy for them, and hopefully they get a chance to come back this year and take another run at it, because I think they're definitely the favorites to do so.
I'll tell you what, next time you're in St. Louis, give me a call and I'll let you wear this guy.
Is it real, or is it the
It's
fake
the
one?
replica, but
yeah, dude, I bought a replica too, man.
All right, there we go.
I bought one too, man. It's funny. I had a little gig that I sort of sabotaged a little, or fabricated a little bit. And I said that I ordered it, and I posted it on social media, and I said, yes, I got my alumni ring. You should have seen how many alumni guys reached out to me and they're like, are you kidding me? How did you get that? What's going on here? Oh, I just kept playing along. I was like, yeah, man, come on. I helped start the run, man. 2008 when I got here.
I brought Alex Steen here.
Process, man. Yeah. No,
that's awesome. That's pretty good. Yeah, I'm the one that drove Alexander Steen to the rink every day.
Exactly.
Come on.
I made Alex who he was, man. Both Alex.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that's awesome. So, again, you mentioned some of the players you played with. Obviously, Keith Tkachuk, Paul Kariya, Mike Van Ryn even. And then you look at your Detroit days. I mean, there was some loaded talent on that team. Who would you say you learned from most in your NHL career?
That's such a great question. I'm so lucky that I have a list of so many great players that I was able to play with. I'll go through each team just because it's so hard to pick one guy. In Toronto, definitely Matt Sundin. Matt Sundin, right from day one, was a guy that embraced me with open arms. I mean, you remember, I don't think many people know this, but my first year in Toronto, I was a 19-year-old kid, and the next oldest guy on the team was 28 years old. And nobody really had to be my friend, but Matt Sundin, really took it upon himself to make sure I felt comfortable every day, and made me feel like one of his closest friends. And that's something that I'm very, very grateful for. Taught me a lot about, how to handle myself in the city, and different things that, I could make myself better with, both on and off the ice. Let's fast forward to St. Louis. Brad Boyes, obviously, he's one of my best friends, and he's such a laid back kind of guy, and sort of, I guess that's why we're really close friends, is because we share the same personality. But definitely Keith Tkachuk, Big Walt, because you really appreciate guys that have been through so much and that have played for so long. And just the perspective that he shared on playing the game, on life, and family. Like, this guy loved his family. And, to see Matthew and both Brady have, the success that they're having in the NHL. I remember these guys as kids. I would be playing road hockey in their backyard when they'd have house parties and stuff like that. And how much, time Big Walt invested into that, and just how much he was a guy that was just so respected into the room. Guys that really value, Barrett Jackman was another guy, Paul Kariya. But I'm going to be honest with you, one of the guys that probably had the most impact on me, just because I felt like my game really settled down playing in Detroit. There was such a feeling of always having to prove myself every year in Toronto and in St. Louis. But when I decided to sign in Detroit, there was a feeling in that locker room of just knowing how to do the right thing every day. And that was because of the leadership of Henrik Zetterberg. Henrik Zetterberg was hands down one of the most genuine, one of the most first-class teammates I've ever played with, just because, of his work ethic. He shows that both on and off the ice, the way he leads, the way he talks to his teammates, the way he, embraces camaraderie around the guys, when both at the rink and away from the rink, always initiating team gatherings, whether it's through dinners, whether it's through functions and stuff like that. But just the way he led on the ice, and just the way his approach with the way he would communicate with guys, it would always be through the power of positivity. He never had anything bad to say. It was almost like, what I try to do in today's game, or in today's world when I work with young kids, is finding the positive way to share a message instead of constructive criticism all the time. It's something that I learned from him. I mean, there was never a bad thing he said, even though things could have been, probably the worst that you've ever felt. You would always find the positive approach to every situation. And those are three guys right there. I listed a bunch, but definitely you see why they're considered leaders, and why they were guys that are so respected in the game.
So Alex Pietrangelo, you mentioned his name, somebody you played with when he was a younger man. Did you see him becoming the type of leader he's become, and really, honestly, the elite defenseman that he's become? Could you tell at a young age that he was that kind of guy?
Well, I always knew he had the potential to be an elite defenseman, because right from day one, he showed the skill set. But right from day one, there was a maturity level that Alex needed to learn to be a leader. And I think, he still is. He's a genetic freak. This guy is, you can't keep him off the ice. You can't keep him out of the gym. He is genetically trained to keep himself, in a certain type of mindset when it comes to, diet, when it comes to nutrition, when it comes to fitness, when it comes to hockey, and even just playing the game, which is something that you always knew was going to carry on and benefit him down the road. But I think for Alex, I never anticipated he would be the type of leader that he was until he went through the process. I remember second or third year in St. Louis, they were talking about giving him the C. And I was so against that. I was trying to recommend to people, say, listen, you may think he's ready for this, but don't put that pressure on him. He doesn't need that. Make him a leader, because I think that's something you want him to develop into, but let him learn along the way. And I think one guy that he really learned a lot from was David Backes, and the way he embraced being a captain of the team. And I think that's where people get lost, or at least get distracted or lose their focus a little bit when they try to find out who a captain is. Your captain isn't always your best player. Your captain is a guy that learns how to be that best player that leads by example. And I think the approach that the Blues took with Alex is the best example of it, because he was able to be part of the conversation, but he didn't have to be the voice. He didn't have to be the guy that would have to answer all the tough questions. You groom him into that. And we've had that conversation here in Toronto over the last couple of years with the Maple Leafs, because they've developed a young core. And you don't want to put that pressure on a guy where not only as a young player he's expected to be the best player and perform on a nightly basis. Well, now you got to answer the tough questions. No, have the guys that are capable of doing that are capable of wearing the shield, learning how to handle their emotions, learning how to handle the tough questions. Because, as a young kid, you're already dealing with a lot. You don't need to be dealing with any more that you're probably not comfortable doing. And so with Alex, I think he's the right leader right now because of that. It was the process that he was able to grow up into, and you can see it's reaping benefits in who he is as a player and who he is as a leader on this team.
I've got to ask you about one very specific moment in your time in St. Louis. It was in Joe Louis Arena. We talked about this before the show. It's a very famous GIF that still makes its way around. You sliding into the boards and kind of face planting right where the camera is. I have to ask you, like, what was the thought when you first, I mean, first of all, how did you find out about this?
Yeah.
And two, I mean, what was it like kind of being the star of a kind of a negative sided GIF?
Well, I guess it's funny because it's something that people always remember me in a stupid way. But it was hilarious. I go back to that day, and what people don't understand is that the old Joe Louis Arena, the boards were brick walls,
Yeah.
like hard as a wall. And so what happened in that moment was I was trying to make a play, sliding on the puck, and I knew I was coming into the boards. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm either going to smash headfirst into this thing and break my neck, or I'm going to try to brace myself knowing that this is going to hurt. So what I did was I lifted myself up and I braced the impact with the top of my knees. And that's why I made the expression that I did. And then after the game, it's funny. I'm walking around and I see a group of guys just, getting together and having laughs. And every time I would walk around them, guys would be hiding their phones like they were embarrassed about something. And I'm thinking to myself, what's going on here? Until finally, Eric Johnson says, "Hey, man, I don't know if you've seen this, but it's pretty hilarious." So he shows me, and I'm like, I get this awe look in my face. I'm like, oh, my God, what the hell was the camera doing in that spot in that moment? And you shake your head, and the next thing you know, I'm on the bus, and my phone's blowing up with all my buddies saying, "Man, are you okay? What happened here? This and that." And I'm like, yeah, it's just one of those things you get caught in the moment, and those are things that make people laugh. And for me, unfortunately, it's something that I'll never be able to remove myself with, but it's something that I'll always have fun with because there's nothing I'm embarrassed about. I mean, it's just one of those embarrassing moments that end up turning out to be one of the funniest gifts ever created.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say about that.
You'll live forever, Carlo. That's
Live
the way
forever,
I see it.
man. But it's good. It's all good. It's all good.
I remember that the call for the Blues broadcast, Darren Pang was trying to break down the play, and then that happened. Your face comes on the screen, and
Yeah.
I remember he just kind of pauses and doesn't say anything, and then he's like, "And Carlo Colaiacovo has a little problem there in the boards," and I'm thinking they probably had to like turn their microphones off because they probably started laughing.
Oh, probably. I mean, you think about being in the right place at the right time. Like that camera guy, like couldn't be any more perfect.
You got a raise after that.
Yeah, he should have. He should have. But yeah, I mean, listen, what are you gonna do? It's people still send me those gifts on Twitter and social media and stuff when they try to say, "Oh, this is what you feel like on a Monday. How was your Friday? How was your weekend?" And it's like you just sit there and you laugh. It's like
Right.
There's nothing you can say to me, nothing you can send to me that's gonna make me feel embarrassed. So.
Right. So again, you play in St. Louis a couple of years. You go move on to Detroit, but then you were bought out by the Wings in July of 2013, and then in November, Blues defenseman Jordan Leopold hurt his hand, I believe, got hand surgery, and the Blues decided to bring you back, sign you back for another 1-year deal. Was there any teams at all that were pursuing you at the time?
Yeah.
And was it an easy decision to come back to St. Louis?
So it's funny. That was a unique time for me because during that wait, I had a verbally agreed deal to go play in the KHL, and which is why I was still at home skating. But I don't know how things work over there through paperwork or through. The explanation I was given was the player that I was going in to replace was hurt, and the team couldn't officially cut ties with him. So the contract was continually to be delayed, and I was skating at home with the local OHL team here, the Mississauga Steelheads, while I was waiting for that to go through. And I got to a point where I was like, okay, I can't wait any longer. I've got to get back to playing. And so my agent got really proactive with NHL teams again. And so during that week, one of the teams that was interested in signing me was the Florida Panthers. And we were in talks with them. We were actually very close to finalizing a deal. And the day that we were close to finalizing a deal, Doug Armstrong calls and says, "Hey, this is what just happened with Jordan. What's the deal with Carlo? Is he available to play? What's his conditioning? We'd like to have him back if everything works well." So immediately my brain starts spinning because I'm thinking to myself, wow, a place that I never really wanted to leave in St. Louis is offering me the chance to come back. And so We had some tough conversations that night. Florida offered me the opportunity to go and play a lot right away, but they weren't a really good team. And St. Louis provided me an opportunity to come back that both me and my wife were really excited about, because we both really loved it there, and we saw the opportunity to again take another crack at a championship with a team that I felt like there was some unfinished business with. But I knew going in there that I would have to accept a different role, because they had their set guys. Leopold, unfortunate injury. Maybe be a guy that would be a depth guy, which is something that a lot of guys don't entertain and are not really excited about. But I tried to push all that aside when making the decision, because I wanted the opportunity to play on a good team, knowing that if I played on a good team, it would increase my chances to play a lot more and play in the best time of the year. So we made that decision to come back, and it was a decision that we didn't really take much time to think about. I mean, yes, Florida was something great to get me back in the NHL, but going back to St. Louis and a place that was familiar. My wife was pregnant at the time, so it was a place that maybe we thought about raising a family as well if everything went well, and we decided to do it. We took a crack at it, and we went back. And unfortunately, the year ended prematurely for us in the first round of the playoffs against the Blackhawks, where the Blackhawks ultimately went on and to win the Stanley Cup. You kind of wonder what if, and then we make the decision to move on again next summer. Which was unfortunate, because I really wanted to stay there again. But it's the business of hockey. You live and you learn and you move on. And maybe there's another opportunity for me to be back there in some other capacity one of these days. But St. Louis holds a special place in our hearts. So many great memories there. Our daughter was born in Missouri after that season. So a place that me and my wife always envisioned that maybe we'd live there one day. But we're still young, and right now we're happy and comfortable where we are, but we'll see where life takes us afterwards. But we still have a lot of friends and a lot of connections in St. Louis, and something that will always stay with us.
Well, reminding our listeners, this is being recorded during the quarantine, which I imagine is when you're hearing it as well. I want to ask you, Carlo, everything okay in your house? I'm hearing you shouting.
My wife and my son just came home, and I'm trying to make the signals of, hey, be quiet, money here.
Perfectly fine, trust me.
Yeah, no, it's all good. Everything's great at home. Everything's
okay.
Great.
Just wanted to make sure before we continued. So I wanted to ask you one more thing about your playing days. So you move on to Buffalo, you move on to Philadelphia, and as you mentioned, your career ends there in Germany, playing with I'm probably going to butcher this, Adler Mannheim.
Adler Mannheim, yes.
Yep. Okay.
In the German league, yeah.
So where's your I mean, obviously Toronto's got a rink up there, but in terms of not even just teams you've played for, but cities you've played in, where's your favorite place to play hockey?
St. Louis would definitely lead the category there. They were in my number one favorite place to play, just because if you're combining success and living experience, nothing beats it. Toronto would be second, just because of the sentimental factor of how much it meant to be, a boyhood kid that loved the Maple Leafs and playing for the Maple Leafs at home. Like I mentioned earlier, I wish things would have been a lot different. Detroit would be up there next, just because Joe Louis Arena was one of my favorite rinks to play in, and the tradition and everything, the culture that the Red Wings represent. Again, that's another situation that I wish would have ended differently, but through the business of hockey, different decisions were made. Philadelphia, I loved my time there in Philly. What a hockey market! What an arena to play in! What a rivalry that I got to experience there between the Penguins and the Flyers. Man, people are right, man. You talk about like blood rivalry, hatred. I've never seen anything like it. These guys absolutely hate each other, and every game it was like, all right, who's fighting who? What are we doing? Like, it was crazy. It was awesome, and then that's something that I really appreciated. Buffalo was awesome in the sense that it was just so close to home instead of being in Toronto. My wife's family is from the St. Catharines area. which was very, very close. We got to see them a lot on weekends, especially with a young daughter. It was nice to be that close to home. Again, in Buffalo, they've got great fans, but they haven't had much success over the last couple of years. And to be honest with you, my European experience was incredible. And I'm so glad I did it, because I always said that before I retire, I want to experience, playing over in Europe, because I got that taste one year during the lockout when I went to play for the Spengler Cup. I was like, man, this is awesome. I want to play in this. And my last couple of years in the NHL were tough, because after my return to the St. Louis Blues, you get that label on you as being a depth guy, and you're not playing much. You've got to be a cheerleader, a good locker room guy, which is something I embraced. I loved it. I was still part of the NHL. You still got to be part of that team environment, but you believe you're something better than that, and just hoping to get an opportunity to do so. And I found that opportunity was given to me going to play in Europe. I played in an incredible organization with Adler Mannheim in Germany, one of the best teams and organizations to play for in Europe. We had an NHL arena, and it run like an NHL team with 13,000 packed every night with a soccer style atmosphere. Really, really incredible. And you get to travel Europe too. Like it's different. You don't play as many games. You get to enjoy life a little bit more. And you really get to appreciate, things you probably couldn't do while you're here. Travel the world, see different places, and make new friends, which is what you're doing throughout this whole journey. So I think that's where I would rank everything, and ultimately, it's led me to where I am today, where I'm a retired NHL alumni. And played 16 years pro, and I can say my body's paying for it now.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Hey, again, I've played hockey my whole life, never professionally, and I'm still paying for it too. So I hear you.
Yeah, but I'm extremely blessed. I've got a really good gig right now. The fear once you get older is you start to see the door closing. And I always said, even when I was in Europe, I want to play as long as I can, and as long as the fun is still and the passion is still driving. But sometimes, in life, there's many things that are presented to you that you just got to make the best decision possible. And there was an incredible opportunity offered to me right away that allowed me to start a post career right away without thinking. And I'm having so much fun doing it. And I'm so thankful that I was able to find something like that.
Yeah, so I want to go ahead and give you a mention on that as well, because we've had a couple other TSN 1050 guys on this show, and just a reminder to St. Louis people and really anyone anywhere, you can stream this online. So make sure you check out Carlo on excuse me, TSN 1050 in Toronto. It's a show First Up with Landsberg and Colaiacovo.
Yeah.
You guys are in the mornings. If you want to give your time slot and let people know how they can find you.
Yeah, so we are a sports talk radio show Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. on TSN 1050. You can stream us online. You can stream us on the TSN app. You can download our podcast. You can listen to us there, Landsberg, First Up with Landsberg and Colaiacovo. You can follow me on Twitter at Carlo Colaiacovo, on Instagram at carlo.colaiacovo. And, I try to share as much informative content, as much creative content, as much funny content as I can. And, I guess you can learn a lot about me with some of my social accounts, as to who I am and a little bit of my personality. But, it's crazy. You enter a new phase in your life where you do sports talk radio, and, you come into a city like Toronto that, last year wins an NBA championship, which was an absolutely incredible ride to be on. I was in St. Louis when the Cardinals won a World Series. Actually, my wife went to the Game 7 game where they clinched it against the
Rangers?
Texas Rangers. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. So, you consider yourself fortunate enough to be part of events like that, basically create history. And for me, listen, I just try to have as much fun as I can every day. Love doing what I'm doing. And, let's just hope with the world that we're living in right now, with the uncertainty through the pandemic that we're living through, that sports finds a way, life finds a way to come back, and then sports shortly after finds a way to come back. Because that's what the joys in life that we get to at least explore.
Yeah, it definitely made life interesting for us. You and I were
Tell me
talking
about
before.
it.
Yeah, it's, I love being with my kid more. I love being with my
Yeah, me
wife,
too.
and things are great. But at the same time, you're like, okay, I want to be able to attend a sporting event. I want to be able to go see a movie. And yeah, so eventually we'll get back to that time, but not quite yet. So, Carlo, one more question for you.
Sure.
And this is all we do here is ask hard-hitting questions on Let's Go Blues Radio. So I'm going to end one with a big one here. The movie of your life, the movie of Carlo Colaiacovo. Who plays Carlo Colaiacovo?
Ooh, are we doing celebrity or are we doing athlete?
Go ahead, whatever way you want.
Well, celebrity, people say that I look a lot like, what's the guy from Ray Donovan's name?
Liev Schreiber. That was what I was going to respond with.
Yes. I kind of got the haircut too now.
There you go.
The buzzed hair. I'm trying to grow the beard a little bit. So I would have to say Liev Schreiber for me, celebrity-wise. And then athlete-wise, a lot of people say that I have a little bit of Patrick Elias in me.
Oh, I see that.
So maybe Patrick Elias, I don't know. But if it's not Patrick Elias, I'll give you a certain St. Louis fan favorite because we have him on our show every Tuesday, Cam Jansen.
Oh, you got to go with the Cam, of course. Friend of the show.
Absolute beauty.
We love. It's funny. Every former player I interview, his name always seems to come up. It's interesting.
And you know what? What he's doing is perfect for him because not only was he like the one of the best teammates, he was the life of every locker room. And what radio allows you to do is basically show your personality, or at least share your personality on air. And he's the best guy at that, with the way he talks, with the emotion that he shares when he talks. He's been great, man, and I'm so happy that he's found something that he's happy with and something that I think he's pretty good at.
Oh yeah, we love him here in St. Louis. He's one of St. Louis's favorites, and we like to give him trouble on this show because, for example, we just had Brandon Bollig on, and we like to remind Cam and even guys like Pat Maroon, hey, Brandon Bollig is the first St. Louis resident to ever win the Stanley Cup. Remember that, Cam.
It's funny so Cam is one of those guys. When I posted the picture of the ring, he called me and he goes, "Where did you get that? How did you get that?"
That is so awesome.
Are you serious? How did you get that?
I feel like we could have you back on. You could just have you read the text you got after you posted that.
So what I did, I surprised him. I actually ordered one online for him, and I had it delivered to his house.
Oh, nice.
And I didn't tell him. And I said, hey, I got something coming for you. And when you get it, just make sure you play along. So when he got it, he was like, "Oh my God, this is awesome. I'm going to go through the alumni room and just be like, yeah, where's yours? You're yours. Yeah."
Yeah, that's Cam for sure.
Oh, he's a beauty, man. He's a beauty.
Carlo, this has been an enlightening and very fun interview to have on the show. And I know our fans are going to love hearing your take on everything, because you were definitely a guy that a lot of people loved here in St. Louis. So
thanks, man.
Yeah,
Appreciate
of course.
It.
And
the love is shared right back at everyone.
Yep. And you'll have to come on Jansen's show so you can hear more stories from Carlo, because I know
Listen, you got my contact now. Feel free to have me on anytime. I would love to do it.
All right, we'll have you on every Tuesday.
Okay, man. Sounds good.
All right, Carlo. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right. Take care, Jeff.
Yep. What are you doing? Why are you watching me right now? Don't you know you can be podcasting Let's Go Blues Radio right now and check out an interview about somebody who's a prospect in the organization? What are you doing? Why are you watching me? Get out of here. Go!